You felt that, didn't you? The silence that hits right before chaos chooses a name. They almost fought over you, like your name carries some kind of spell. And deep down, you know why. Because it does. You don't just enter rooms, you bend them. You don't meet people, you reprogram them. Every word you say rearranges something in their heads, and every glance you throw rewrites a rule they thought was permanent. You were never just someone. You were a trigger, a walking paradox wrapped in calm skin. They say your name like it's an invitation to war. Half of them worship it, the other half flinch like it's cursed. But all of them, every single one, feel it. Because you didn't come here to play the polite version of existence. You came as the distortion in the system, the beautiful mistake that keeps proving the math wrong. You're the kind of quiet that makes the loud ones panic. You're the type they whisper about in corners, because facing you directly means confronting something raw and ancient inside themselves. You became the test, not of loyalty, not of sanity, but of truth. They almost fought because something about you makes people lose their mask. You tear through the performances. You strip their little acts down to bone and pulse. You expose how much they crave what you carry. The audacity to live unfiltered. The confidence to bleed in public and smile like it's art. The power to not chase validation because your very presence bends it toward you. They don't understand you. They try to label you saint, sinner, villain, miracle, because your silence unnerves them more than any weapon ever could. They can't stand that you don't beg for belonging, that you don't need their applause to feel alive. See, that's the secret. You stopped seeking permission the day you realized you were the permission. You stopped asking, why me? And started asking, why not me? You learned that being misunderstood isn't exile, it's camouflage. It keeps the average ones from getting too close, while the extraordinary ones recognize you on sight. You walk into a room, and everyone's nervous system adjusts. It's instinct, animal, like their subconscious knows it's meeting something outside its classification, something that's seen both heaven and hell, and took notes from both. That's why your name feels like a spell. It's coded with experience. It carries echoes of every night you broke in silence, every betrayal that burned you into steel. It hums with the frequency of everything you've survived. And survival, my friend, is the one sound this world can't mimic. They fight because they feel small in your gravity. They envy the peace you forged from pain, the stillness that hides in your chaos. They can't stand that your scars don't leak weakness. They glow with warning, that your laughter sounds like a threat because it's born from things they'd never survive. They mistake your kindness for softness until they see what lives behind your eyes. That's when they realize you're not here for approval. You're here for impact. You're not trying to be liked. You're trying to be remembered. And oh, how you will be. They almost fought because they could feel it, the shift. They sensed that their games, their illusions, their posturing, none of it holds weight around you anymore. You're untouchable because you stopped chasing power and became it. You stopped begging to be seen and turned yourself into the event that can't be ignored. Now they argue over what to call you, a prophet, a problem, a phase, a danger. But you just smile, because you know something they don't. Chaos doesn't ask for understanding, it demands adaptation. You are the living contradiction they can't categorize, holy and corrupted, merciful and merciless, light disguised as shadow, shadow disguised as light. And that's why they fight, because to love you means confronting the parts of themselves they've buried. They can't destroy what you've become. They can only react to it. And every reaction, every whisper, every rumor, they're all just proof that the spell worked. Your existence rewrote the hierarchy. You shifted their frequency without lifting a finger. They sense it, that your calm hides storms, that your silence is an interrogation they can't pass, that your smile feels like prophecy. So let them fight. Let them call your name like it's blasphemy and prayer in the same breath. Because one day, they'll realize the spell they feared was never on your name. It was in your presence. You ever notice how they always whisper when it's about you? Like they're afraid the air itself might carry your name back to you. That's what happens when your energy starts to feel dangerous, when your silence becomes louder than their entire performance. When your existence starts rewriting their little hierarchy of who's allowed to matter. They almost fought over you, because in a world of followers, you represent something untamed. You move like a question that no one dares to answer. You don't beg to be understood. You dare people to misunderstand you. You carry a kind of stillness that makes liars panic. Because when you look at them, they know you see it all. The fakeness, the front, the fear they call confidence. You see right through the makeup of their personality and down to the code. And that's why your name feels like a spell. Because when they say it, it does something to them. It makes them remember every time they pretended to be more than they were. It makes them taste jealousy or guilt, sometimes all at once. It makes them question why someone like you walked through the same fire they did and came out glowing instead of bleeding. They'll say you're manipulative. They'll say you're dangerous. They'll say your calm is fake. Your confidence is arrogance. But deep down, they know it's not arrogance. It's evolution. You stopped needing validation the moment you realized your pain had refined you beyond their vocabulary. You outgrew languages built for smaller lives. That's what they don't understand. You're not fighting for attention anymore. You're orbiting above it. You became the gravity that drags attention toward you, whether you want it or not. You became the mirror they can't look into for too long, because you remind them of everything they could have been if they hadn't given up so easily. And that's why people go to war over your name. Because in a world full of rehearsed identities, your authenticity feels like violence. You're proof that surviving doesn't have to look graceful, that healing can look feral, that peace can come wearing war paint. You didn't heal to be palatable. You healed to be free. You've got that kind of freedom that smells like rebellion to the insecure. They see it and call it arrogance because it terrifies them. They think they hate you, but really they hate the version of themselves that can't be you. They crave your chaos, but fear your clarity. They want your warmth, but they can't stand the fire that makes it. They almost fought because your name breaks patterns. Every time it's spoken, it reminds them that someone made it out without losing themselves. It reminds them that control isn't power, detachment is. Because the one who doesn't need the game always wins it. You've become a storm disguised as stillness. People mistake your quiet for peace, but peace doesn't hum like that. Peace doesn't carry thunder in its bloodstream. You walk like someone who made a deal with the universe and won, like someone who knows something they can't say out loud. And maybe you do, because pain taught you more about human nature than any philosophy ever could. You learned that everyone wants power, but few can handle the loneliness that comes with it. You learned that strength isn't built in the spotlight. It's engineered in the silence where no one claps for you. You learn that being feared isn't the opposite of being loved. It's just the higher voltage version of it. They almost fought over you because, for a moment, they forgot who they were. You pulled the masks right off their faces without touching them. Your presence flipped the switch on their survival instincts. They felt something ancient, something primal that whispered, "This one's different." And you are. You're the quiet before revolutions. You're the calm between lightning strikes. You're not chaos. You're the architect behind it. You don't destroy things out of rage. You destroy them by existing outside their limits. That's what the spell really is. Not some curse, not some witchcraft. It's the energy of someone who's been through enough to make peace with their own darkness. And that peace, it radiates, it infects, it changes everyone who comes near you. They'll deny it. They'll call it coincidence. But look around. Notice how things break when they mishandle you. Notice how people lose balance after crossing you. Notice how every room feels colder when you leave. That's not coincidence. That's consequence. Your energy became an ecosystem. Your absence became a warning. And your name, a living pulse that makes the fake tremble and the real lean closer. So when they fight over you, when they argue, when they spiral trying to decode what you are, smile. Because it means the spell worked. You didn't need to cast it. You are it. The kind of spell that doesn't fade when the flame goes out. The kind that doesn't wear off when they forget your face. Because even when your name stops echoing in their mouths, it keeps echoing in their minds. You didn't enchant them. You awakened them. And they mistook that awakening for danger. Because for the first time in their lives, they felt alive. And that's the part they'll never admit. That deep down, behind all their hatred and trembling and gossip, there's something else. Hunger. A desperate, wordless craving to feel what you feel when you walk through the world like you own the silence. They almost fought over you because your existence reminds them that control is an illusion. You don't seek control, you embody it. It's in the way you breathe when everything's collapsing. It's in the way your pulse doesn't race when they try to provoke you. It's in that tiny smirk you give right before the room realizes you've already read every motive, every fear, every insecurity bleeding off their souls. You don't play chess, you are the board. And they can't stand that realization, because how do you fight someone who sees 10 moves ahead and doesn't even care about winning? You don't. You self-destruct. That's why your name feels like a curse to them. Because it's not just a sound, it's a signal. It awakens the version of themselves they tried to bury under mediocrity. When they hear it, they remember every time they settled, every time they shrank, every time they betrayed their own fire just to fit in. You remind them of what they could have been before fear made them small. So they'll project, they'll fight, they'll gather in dimly lit rooms, whispering your name like it's classified information. They'll say, "Something's off about that one," when what they really mean is, "That one makes me realize how ordinary I've become." You're not cursed. You're just the mirror they can't clean without confronting the reflection. That's the real trick of your spell. It doesn't manipulate them. It exposes them. Every glance you give, every silence you hold, it's a spotlight on their own unhealed chaos. And when people are forced to see the rot inside, they call the light the problem. But you already know this game. You've seen how quickly fascination turns into fear, how admiration mutates into resentment when people realize they can't contain you. They'll try to categorize you, too cold, too intense, too different, because labeling you makes them feel safer. But labels mean nothing when you live outside their language. You're not too much. You're just everything they've suppressed. You're the chaos they've been pretending to control. You're the darkness that learned how to smile. And so they fight. Not because they hate you, but because they hate the awakening that comes with you. Because loving you means facing the truth that comfort is a slow death, and evolution requires pain. You make people feel, and in a world addicted to numbness, that's a revolution. They'll start asking each other questions they can't answer. Why do I think about them so much? Why does their silence haunt me? Why can't I stop checking if they're watching me? Because you left fingerprints on their consciousness. Because you reached into their programming and rearranged it without touching them. You became a glitch in their order, a reminder that peace isn't compliance, that light can come dressed in leather and truth can have blood on its hands. You're the paradox they can't escape. You smile like a sinner but speak like a priest. You bleed like a victim but rise like a god. And that duality drives them insane. Because the world taught them that purity equals goodness, that brokenness equals failure. And then you showed up, pure chaos, holy corruption, sacred imperfection. You broke the algorithm. You proved that destruction can be creation in disguise. That being feared and being free are sometimes the same thing. That love can sound like a scream and still be real. That's why your name has weight. That's why they almost fought. Because when they said it, reality trembled for a second. It's like the air itself remembered you. Like the universe paused to listen. You are not their competition. You're their contrast. You're proof that something greater exists beyond the script. And that terrifies people who have built their identity on the safety of repetition. You didn't need to cast a spell, love. You just walked in truth. And the truth burns liars alive. It exposes parasites and collapses false gods. And people don't thank you for that. They declare war on you for it. But here's the twist. Every war they wage against you only spreads your legend. Every time they whisper your name, they strengthen it. Every rumor becomes another candle on your altar. They can't bury you. You're already under their skin. And soon, they'll realize something even worse. That the obsession they mock is possession. That your name doesn't just echo in rooms. It owns them. Because once someone truly experiences you, your depth, your energy, your fire, nothing ever tastes the same again. They go back to the world, but it all feels watered down. They crave that voltage you bring, the danger of someone who lives without chains. That's the curse and the gift of being unforgettable. You ruin normal for everyone who meets you. So let them fight. Let them panic. Let them try to exorcise your name from their tongues. Because what they'll never understand is that your spell was never in your words. It was in your being, every move, every pause, every look. It carried a frequency they weren't built to withstand. You are not just a person, and when people encounter a phenomenon, they either evolve or break. Most of them break. But that's none of your concern. You were never meant to comfort the world. You were meant to wake it up. So keep walking through their panic. Let their confusion be your applause. Let their fear be your proof. Because if they're still fighting over you, it means the spell is still alive. And when the noise fades, when all the chaos burns itself out, when every lie collapses under its own weight, your name will still hum in the air like prophecy. They'll call it magic. They'll call it danger. But you'll know the truth. You didn't enchant them. You simply reminded them what power feels like. Because that's what you are, isn't it? The reminder. the one they tried to erase, the one they whispered about in corners, the one that made them look over their shoulders in rooms that used to feel safe. They almost fought over you because something in you defies the way this world is wired. You're not supposed to move like that. Unpredictable yet composed, dangerous yet divine. You're not supposed to laugh after breaking or forgive without forgetting. You're not supposed to walk through ruin and come out radiant. But you did. And every time you do, their illusion of control burns a little more. They can't explain you, so they attack you. They can't decode you, so they call you names. They can't touch you, so they turn each other into enemies just to release the pressure. That's what power does. It exposes weakness. And your power isn't loud, it's surgical. You don't swing fists, you shift frequencies. You make people feel everything they've avoided, and then you stand still as they unravel in front of you. They call that manipulation. I call that truth with consequences. You learn to smile while bleeding. You learn that some storms come to build your bones, not break them. You learn that when the world stops clapping, you don't stop performing. You become the stage itself. That's why you glow in silence. That's why your shadow feels royal. That's why your name burns like incense and war paint in the same breath. They think it's witchcraft. It's not. It's self-mastery, the kind that doesn't need validation, the kind that doesn't crumble when misunderstood, the kind that knows chaos isn't your enemy. It's your mirror. You looked into it long enough to find your reflection in the dark, and when you emerged, nothing could threaten you again. So let them whisper. Let them choke on the myth they built around you. Let them argue about your name until their tongues turn to dust. Because in the end, the spell wasn't meant to destroy them. It was meant to awaken you. It was never about being feared. It was about being remembered, and you will be. Not because you were perfect, not because you were gentle, but because you were real in a world built on performance. They'll forget the rumors, they'll forget the noise, but your silence. They'll never outrun that. Because when they close their eyes at night, long after the fights, the envy, the chaos, your name will still echo. Not as a curse, not as a saint, but as the quiet hum of something eternal, something that can't be imitated, something that doesn't fade, something they felt once and never recovered from. You were never their chaos. You were their consequence. And consequences, my dear, don't need permission to haunt. Shh! Don't move a muscle. They've already seen you, not just what you did, but what you didn't do. The mercy, the silence, the way you chose to disappear instead of detonate. And now, ironically, tragically, beautifully, they're moving pieces for you. You thought your silence made you invisible. But in this world, the loud ones get clocked, and the quiet ones get catalogued, analyzed, watched, filed under unknown variable, too dangerous to define. Because you weren't just unpredictable. You were undeciphered, a paradox. The only person who could have burned the whole city down, and chose instead to walk away with wet matches. They watched that. They documented it. They ran simulations on what you could have done if you snapped. And every time the algorithm ran, it spit out one word: unstoppable. So they prayed you'd stay quiet. They hoped you'd rot in stillness. Because if someone like you ever realized what you really are, then even God would check the locks twice. But here's the twist. While you were healing in shadows, they were rerouting entire networks to get ahead of the version of you that might return. They built war rooms. They studied your kindness like it was a threat. Because you were kind in places where most men beg for revenge. And when you didn't clap back, they started panicking, because who the hell has that kind of control? A monster. Who remembers being human? That's what you are, aren't you? See, they thought your silence meant surrender. But in reality, you were just listening to everything, everyone, building a profile on the entire system. They tried tracking your rage, but it was scattered like code hidden in raindrops, encrypted in restraint, masked by kindness, weaponized through stillness. And now, the moves are starting, not yours, theirs. They're shifting knights and bishops like they can block what's coming, trying to anticipate your next breath, your next blink, your next awakening. Because someone in the upper chambers finally whispered, I don't think they were asleep. I think they were waiting, and now the game's glitching, not because you're loud, but because their entire board was designed for people who play by the rules. But you were watching the rule makers, and you saw them blink. You know what happens next, don't you? They try to fold you into the plan, make you an asset, a variable they can predict. They'll frame it as reward, recognition, but you'll see it for what it is, containment in disguise. A golden cage built to delay the inevitable. You becoming the final move, not the player, not the piece, not the king, not the pawn, the glitch in the algorithm, the move that wasn't even on the board. You don't need their permission. You don't need their applause. You don't need their damn spotlight. Because you were never playing to be seen. You were playing to be remembered. And the irony? The very silence they tried to bury is now the echo that's haunting their war rooms. Their analysts can't sleep. Their psychologists are spinning. Because no one can explain how you absorbed that much pain and came back calm. See, they scream when hurt. You reorganize, you weaponize the wound, you alchemize trauma into blueprints, and what used to be scars are now circuit diagrams. You didn't just survive, you evolved with an operating system they can't track. And now they're seeing the side effects, the unexpected consequences of underestimating a soul who suffered without spectacle. A heart that cracked quietly, a spirit that learned to bleed without proof. Now the ones who ignored you are speaking your name behind closed doors. Now the ones who scoffed are reading your story like scripture. Now the ones who mocked your silence are reshaping their strategies to avoid becoming a casualty in your next chapter. And you're still just breathing, unbothered, unrushed, and unreasonably dangerous. Because the truth is, what you didn't do is more terrifying than anything you ever could have. You didn't expose them, you didn't retaliate, you didn't snap. And that's what scares them most. Because if you ever do, no one's coming back from it. Not them, not their plans, not their prophecies. Because your silence was never submission. It was a loading screen. And now, you're online. Black pawn. Now they move, but you already won. They're moving pieces now. But not because they're confident. No. They're moving because they're nervous. There's a difference between strategy and scrambling, and every motion they make reeks of panic dressed up as planning. Why? Because they finally realized you weren't an event. You were a signal, a warning embedded in human form. You were never just a chapter in their story. You were the cipher that decodes all their lies. You were the mirror they kept covered, because if anyone ever looked too long, they'd see the whole empire was built on broken glass and borrowed time. And you were the one they couldn't erase. See, they deleted names, they silenced voices, they rewrote truths and spun shame into legacy. But you kept walking like you were being pulled by something older than time itself. And that's when they started watching. Not because you screamed, but because you moved like someone who already knew how the story ends. Like someone who met the ending and walked backward into the chaos. They ran psych evals on your patterns. They tried to label it. Stoic, disconnected, dissociative. But none of their terms stuck. Because how do you label someone who doesn't belong to the known world anymore? You weren't born from textbooks. You were sculpted in silence, refined in rooms with no applause. And every kindness you gave without witness was logged. Don't look so shocked. Someone was always watching. But not the way you think. It wasn't just enemies. It wasn't just snakes. There were others, entities, beings, watchers, who see not your mask, but your math. They calculated your restraint. They measured your heartbreak. They studied your choices in the moments you could have unleashed hell and didn't. And you know what they concluded? This one's built for something we can't explain. And now they're intervening, not to save you, but to amplify you. Because you proved something terrifying to both the wicked and the wise. That a soul who denies vengeance in favor of vision can bend entire timelines. They thought you were alone. But silence has audiences you can't see. And every step you took with bloody feet and no witnesses, it was a ritual. Not the kind written in books. The kind that echoes through networks of the unseen. And now those watchers, those ancient tacticians of consequence, they're making moves behind curtains you didn't even know existed. Pieces shifting in governments, in boardrooms, in back channels. Not to protect you, but to position you. Because they know something you haven't accepted yet. You're not just a survivor. You're an equation that breaks their models. A variable that corrupts the entire simulation. A prophecy they didn't authorize. And now it's unfolding anyway. They thought they had time. But you were the countdown. And every person who thought they buried you is now whispering your name like it's a threat code. Because you became the one thing none of their systems can contain. A soul who's felt everything and still chose to build. They don't get it. They never will. Because their entire strategy is based on causing pain. But what happens when pain no longer moves you? What happens when the very thing they weaponize becomes the reason you're untouchable? They expected you to break. They wanted you to beg. But instead, you reconstructed your nervous system into a weapon. You rewired your triggers into targeting systems. You turned every insult into infrastructure. So now, they're repositioning, pretending to be allies, pretending to see your worth. But it's all a distraction, because deep down, they know the worst-case scenario just came true. You didn't die. You remembered, and now, you're aligned. The angels whisper your name in frequencies the dark can't decode. The demons still tracking your footsteps are returning empty-handed. Because you stopped existing in their frameworks. You stopped responding like a human and started responding like a force. And here's the part that really keeps them up at night. You never wanted to win. You just didn't want to become like them. But now you're beyond that. Now you're ascending on algorithms they never studied. Your shadows grown wings. Your pain's grown pulse. Your purpose. It's making the whole damn simulation glitch. They're moving pieces for you. Because they finally realized you're not a piece at all. You're the board and the game. It's already over. Now what? You breathe and let the silence burn louder than anything they've ever screamed. And yet, even now, they still don't fully grasp what's happening. Because how could they? They built their entire framework on the belief that control comes from visibility, that if they can't see it, it doesn't exist. If they can't measure it, it can't hurt them. But you were born in a place without mirrors, trained in absence, refined in non-detection. They thought silence meant lack of power, but you weren't silent because you were weak. You were silent because you were calculating. You watched what broke others. And you took notes. You let them mock you, dismiss you, forget you, because you understood something they never will. When you don't respond, you stay outside their spell work. And while they were busy casting illusions, you were studying their incantations, memorizing their tone, tracing the frequencies of their lies, until you became immune. And now every spell they cast backfires. Every trap they build collapses, because they can't hex someone who already walked through hell and took its blueprint home. You see it now, don't you? The pattern, the whisper behind the chaos, the movements behind the masks. You were never a victim. You were the test. A test for them. A test for the system. A test for reality itself. And they failed spectacularly, because they saw your stillness as stagnation, when it was summoning. Every quiet moment was you rewriting your code. Every sleepless night was a silent alignment with something far more ancient than vengeance. You weren't healing, you were loading, installing a new language, one written in paradox and blood, one that doesn't ask for justice, it becomes it. And the ones who thought they were above consequence, the ones who thought their titles, their spells, their secrets would protect them, they're the ones moving now, scrambling, because they can't stop a tsunami with a memo. They can't outrun a signal that's already inside the walls. They can't bargain with a force that was never seeking permission. And let's not pretend they tried to stop you, not with bullets or blades, but with doubt, with delay, with manipulation dressed as mentorship. They smiled in your face while inserting decay into your dreams. But you felt it, that chill in the air, that voice that said, "This ain't alignment, this is containment." And you walked away, not out of fear, but because you finally knew your worth was unquantifiable. You are not a position, not a role, not a label, not a candidate. You are a problem the system was never designed to solve. A variable outside the spectrum, a shadow anomaly, in a network built on predictable suffering. And here's the punchline. They thought they chose the game. But the moment they underestimated you, they triggered the true board. A board where silence is louder than speeches, where stillness is more dangerous than war, where kindness is the sharpest blade. Because now you know. They were never watching to understand you. They were watching to contain you, to track your reactions, to anticipate your trigger point, to figure out what would make you snap. But you never gave it to them, because you weren't playing the game. You were the code injection, the corrupted line that spirals the whole simulation into a feedback loop of chaos. And now, it's too late. The watchers have turned to believers. The skeptics have gone silent. The ones who once laughed are sitting in meetings with your name pinned on whiteboards like a ghost they can't explain. You're not a story anymore. You're a case file, an open anomaly. And every time you breathe, somewhere a contingency plan fails. So what now? They're moving pieces. But the pieces were never theirs to begin with. You let them think they had power. You let them think they were in control, because you needed them to reveal their entire arsenal. And now, you've outgrown their battlefield. This isn't revenge. This isn't rage. This isn't about teaching them a lesson. Number. This is what it looks like when evolution stops waiting. You don't want a crown. You want a clean board. You want truth in motion. You want to be what they fear the most. A being who doesn't need validation to operate at maximum power. So let them move. Let them panic. Let them play. You're not here to compete. You're here to collapse the arena. And the best part? You're doing it all without raising your voice, without flashing your teeth, without swinging a single sword. You're doing it by existing in perfect, terrifying alignment with what they swore was impossible. And from this moment on, you never chase again. You never explain again. You never warn again. Because you're not hoping they understand. You're letting them witness the arrival of the glitch, the ghost, the God-tier variable. You. And now that you know, let's see what pieces they move next, while you become the storm they thought they could outcode. And still, even as the shadows shift and the tension thickens like fog around a sealed vault, you remain motionless. Not because you're frozen, but because you've already made your move. It wasn't physical, it was foundational. The kind of shift they can't trace with their satellites. The kind of move that doesn't show up on any board, because the board itself is inside you now. You don't speak in threats. You don't signal with explosions. You don't bark orders. You breathe, and systems fold. You blink, and old gods whisper. They thought they were safe because you hadn't retaliated, but they forgot something ancient, something carved into the bones of every fallen empire. The most dangerous force in the world is a survivor with nothing left to protect but purpose. They thought you were bluffing, that your stillness was fear. But no one told them the truth about you. You don't bluff, you don't shake, you don't flinch. Because every ounce of your fear was burned off in the furnace where they left you to die. And now, you're pure signal. They're calling in favors, lighting up black lines, dusting off protocols that haven't been used since containment operations in mythical level anomalies. Because someone at the top just whispered, whatever this thing is, it's not reacting like a human anymore. You're not. You transcended all that. Your pain pushed you through a membrane, through the last lie, the final illusion. You saw the systems that govern behavior, the rules that keep most souls compliant, the invisible leashes disguised as ambition, forgiveness, morality. And you said, not anymore. You didn't lose your soul. You evolved it, sharpened it, removed every hook they buried inside of you. So now they move pieces, and you warp the board just by standing near it. They send analysts to profile you. They bring in priests, psychics, coders, military-trained clairvoyants, and every single one of them returns with the same haunted phrase, "We don't know what we're dealing with." Because how do you measure someone who survived spiritual execution and came back with their empathy intact? How do you label a person who lost everything they loved and still chose to protect others instead of destroy? How do you control a force that doesn't want control, just freedom? They're terrified because you don't need them. You don't need revenge. You don't need closure. You don't need applause. You've outgrown the battlefield. And that's when a threat becomes a legend. Because you're not trying to prove anything anymore. You're enacting prophecy, not the kind they published, the kind that was hidden, burned, buried. But prophecy doesn't die. It just waits for someone unshakable enough to carry it. And that's you. You're not leading a rebellion. You are the correction. You are the cosmic audit, the spiritual breach. The breach they can't plug because it was never digital. It was emotional. Every time they triggered you, They thought they were weakening you, but they were just fine-tuning your scope, sharpening your contrast, waking up your inner tactician. And now that part of you is wide open, fully online, and beyond simulation. Your silence isn't silence anymore. It's pressure, presence, the kind that bends timelines, the kind that disorients adversaries, the kind that sends grown strategists into spirals of paranoia, because they can feel you watching without looking. They're leaking, cracking, imploding from within. Because you're not just back. You're inevitable. You don't have enemies. You have witnesses. People who saw the impossible. People who felt the shift and said nothing. Because deep down, they knew their words were too small to describe what you became. You never raised your voice. You never told your side. And still, you won, not in noise, but in recalibration, in truth. In alignment so devastatingly accurate that their strongest weapons now ricochet and destroy themselves. And the most poetic part of all, they thought they were documenting your fall. But all this time, they were recording their own, so let them keep moving pieces. You're not in the game. You're what comes after it breaks. And now it begins.